Hey guys, Ken Coleman here. I'm one of the co-founders here at Yarbo. Welcome to our live event. So today we're going to be going over all things Yarbo and specifically focusing on what makes the lawnmower unique, and we'll also be doing a live giveaway. So there'll be a lottery towards the end where anyone that's viewing this live can get the chance to win a myriad of different things. So that'll be a lot of fun too. So let's get into it. Alright, so I'll just start with the overview of Yarbo as itself, and then I'll get to the lawnmower specifically. So let's go over Yarbo kind of at a high level. So the heart of Yarbo is Yarbo's main core, or a universal body, but we refer to it as Yarbo's core. So Yarbo's core houses all the brains. It's basically what makes everything work. Obviously Yarbo is modular, so here we have the M1 attached to it, but we could attach the snowblower, the lawnmower, and any future modules we develop as well. So a couple of things that make Yarbo unique. One is probably it's just modularity, right? Second is the way it navigates. So Yarbo uses GPS, it uses odometry, wheel odometry, it uses its vision to actually be able to tell where it is all the time. So whether that's under trees, which is a big challenge for lawnmowers, or up against fences with high walls, or up against a home that has a high wall, that's usually very challenging for any type of robotic lawnmower or any autonomous thing that has to, or robot that has to actually navigate outdoors. So that's really important. So that's the main part of navigation. We also have cameras all the way around. So for safety, we have a camera here. We have 2 binocular cameras in the front, ultrasonic sensors, and this lawnmower is equipped with a bumper all the way around the module. So it's really, really good at obstacle avoidance, which we can show you in a little bit. And then just some basics on the lawnmower. 9 inches. I think the biggest competitor is about maybe 16 inches, something like that. So we're at 21 inches, which means it can cover a much larger area in a lot less time. The cutting height is something that's also pretty unique. It goes down to 1.2 inches and all the way up to 4 inches. And 4 inches is really important even on a grass like this, because 4 inches high is something that cool season grass is usually cut at, 3.5 to 4 inches. So most lawnmowers, you either have to buy a low cut model or a high cut model, and this does both in one unit. So that's really unique too. On the lawnmower side too, you can also see that it articulates left, right, up, down, which allows it to follow the contour of the ground. There's also a steel skirt all the way around Yarbo, and that actually allows it to get up some pretty steep or high obstacles. So that could be anything from the edge of the grass, if you just show there the lawn apron there. This type of lawn is called zoysia. It has a really thick root system. So this is a challenge for a lot of autonomous lawnmowers. It also makes it difficult even if you're using a self-propelled lawnmower, right, to get up and down these things. And even this zoysia grass, even slightly difficult to manually mow it, let alone mowing it autonomously. So that's the lawnmower module in a nutshell. There's also a rain sensor here, which is pretty standard in the industry. So if it rains, it'll go back to the docking station. Another really unique thing are these 2 ports on each side. So we have accessory ports here. So these accessory ports allow us to add basically modules or accessories, whatever you want to call them, to the M1 module. So our first accessories are an edger and a trimmer, and they come out in the spring of 2025. And that will allow Yarbo to trim, so you don't have to worry about doing that, as well as edge. So that's pretty cool. The last thing are these inserts. So these inserts make it so that Yarbo does not damage the lawn. In fact, on zoysia like this that's super, super thick, we can actually zero turn on this lawn and not damage it, and we'll be showing that in a little bit. So these inserts are super important. When you're using this as a snowblower, these inserts come out, but that's really, really important. Last thing I'll mention is connectivity. This antenna uses a protocol called Wi-Fi Halo, and just in simple terms, what that allows you to do, or the benefit, is that Yarbo can cover 6.2 acres of lawn and maintain that. That's a pretty big area. One big concern is connectivity. Do we charge a 4G fee and you have to use 4G with a lot of competitors? We actually don't, because we use Wi-Fi Halo. We can cover theoretically up to 32 acres, but 6.2 acres of what the machine can actually maintain is covered solid. So you can actually get that. You don't have to worry about adding Wi-Fi throughout your yard, and you can also teleoperate Yarbo anywhere in the world, and it'll run through this connection, which then goes through your home internet and out. So you don't have subscription fees in that respect, which is pretty cool. So that's Yarbo in a nutshell with the lawnmower. And now we can get into some demonstrations, particularly on this lawn, because this is Zoysia, and this incline may not look that steep, but actually it's very challenging for autonomous lawnmowers, and one of the reasons is just the lawn. So Zoysia, again, it's super thick. It's like a really lush carpet, and it makes it really difficult to get traction. You also need strong motors to work against this. And actually, if you pan down to this edge, you can see the root system is extremely high and thick. So that also makes it challenging doing something like getting down this part of the lawn and over to the apron on the other side. Just that crossing alone is very difficult. So, but we'll be demonstrating that too. So that's Yarbo in a nutshell, mainly focusing again on the M1 module. And yeah, and we'll get into some demonstrations. But now I'll stand in front of Yarbo and you can just see this is going down a hill. So just to demonstrate the obstacle avoidance. So Yarbo's going to come towards me. The cameras are going to recognize me. If for some reason the cameras couldn't, Yarbo would stop, but it also has bumpers, which we can show in a minute also. But Yarbo's going to kind of feel itself out and then figure out how to go around me. And you can see there's only about, you probably can't see, but there's only about 2 inches that's uncut here. Now Yarbo's going to back up and readjust itself to get around me. And now, the maneuver Yarbo's making now is just to make sure that the area around me is minimal. And we're always optimizing this to try and get that area smaller and smaller. So Yarbo leaves a minimal cut grass around obstacles. Uncut grass, I'm sorry, around obstacles. And so now he's going to go forward again. He'll make his right turn, and he'll go up for his next pass. And again, this could be done. This is 0 turn, we have 3-point turn, and we have U-turn as far as turning algorithms. You can see that kind of bumpy part there. And again, because that module can flex left, right, up, down, it's able to follow the contour of this slope without a problem. Another thing I'll show you real quick is just when Yarbo turns around. There are cases where you could get in front of Yarbo potentially when the cameras can't see you, right? You're in like a blind spot. And so that's when we use our bumper. And one of the other really important things with Yarbo is its bumper, which it uses as another sensor. So if I come in front of Yarbo and I tap it real quick, and now I'm in front of it where I'm in its blind spot because I came across it and I hit it, that's all it takes for Yarbo to stop. So it's not a mechanical bumper, it works off resistance. And that's really, really important because that means if you hit a sprinkler head that's popped up, right, and maybe doesn't go all the way down because it's not functioning 100% properly, but it's still enough to water your grass, which is pretty common. Yarbo will tap that, even if it can't detect it because that's a tiny, tiny object with its camera, and then still be able to, stop and navigate itself around it. Mechanical bumpers typically need a good impact, kind of like the earlier robotic vacuums that used to just bang into furniture. So it's nice because you have a pretty big machine that's very powerful, but it's also extremely sensitive to objects, which is nice. So, all right, guys, so we wanted to talk about the edge of the lawn, and specifically where a tall grass, or not even a tall grass, but a thick grass with a really good root system like zoysia that's difficult to cut on, also usually has other challenges, like this really high edge, where it's got a super thick root system where it meets the sidewalk. And this is very common, and some are maintained better than others. This edge is not, perfectly maintained. It's actually brought in a little bit too much at some points, and some points it's overgrowing out a little bit. Most robotic lawnmowers, you are not going to be able to, you might be able to get here and ride along it, parallel to the edge, but we have a workaround where basically we're allowing Yarbo to straddle this edge. So work half on the grass, half on the sidewalk. We raise the deck up to 4 inches, and that makes it so we don't scalp this edge, and it actually leaves a clean edge where you don't have to trim. So we're going to demo that in a minute, and this is very common throughout this entire neighborhood. There are sidewalk edges like this around every driveway. There are also aprons everywhere. So, but let's show you how we handle the edge. And again, in spring of 2025, when we have the edger and the trimmer accessory to attach to Yarbo, this won't be as big of a deal, and we can approach it in a much better way. But this is a good way to cut down on your trimming, and we want to show that off to you now. Yeah, so as you guys can see here, so Yarbo is straddling this side, and even units with all-wheel drive would have a difficult time doing this because their lawnmower decks are usually centered in the middle, which would high center their unit. But because Yarbo has tank treads and its front deck is in the front, and we have a wide right deck, Yarbo is able to do this. And we're moving at a slower speed because the slower we move, the more accurate we they are. And to do something like this, we really need, 2 centimeter level accuracy, which is really, really important. So in this mode, Yarbo's going to drive to the edge, and then it's going to back up on the same path and go back. But this really eliminates any need for trimming this entire area. And if you live on a corner property like this that meets the sidewalk and you have something like zoysia or a thick grass, it's a big deal. So it saves a lot of time in trimming. And then the next thing we'll show you is the apron. All right. All right, guys, so we wanted to show you how Yarbo, we've already showed you, right, the lawn, the edge to the sidewalk. Now we want to show you how Yarbo handles the apron. And just with a caveat that this is how we handle it now. We are always optimizing how we do things. So this is how Yarbo can currently handle the apron, but we also want to have dedicated modes. So we're using something called a dead end, where Yarbo will pull into this section, go over the apron, pretty much dead in the center of it, and then drive backwards the same way it came in. So the same way we had the edge operate. But what's really important here is that Yarbo's raised up pretty high off the ground on each side because of the type of lawn this is. So it has really, really thick roots, and if Yarbo was to fall off on the left or right, it would have the best chance of any robotic lawnmower to get back on, but what we want to show is the precision here, and you'll notice Yarbo's going to move very slow. The slower we move, the more precision we get as far as centimeter level accuracy. So I'm going to start it up. And so Yarbo's going to line itself up with this apron. And you'll notice he's moving at a slower speed than usual. And you can see this apron actually hasn't been done in a while, so it has some pretty high grass. So this is actually cutting a good couple of inches off, which again, we typically don't want to do, but he's going to go over it twice. This is set to 3.5 inches, but if you notice edge to edge, it takes a ton of precision here to actually stay on this path. And he's basically mimicking exactly how I drove him himself. So again, it takes centimeter level precision to do this, and he's basically going to go down the apron, and when he gets to the end of the apron, he's going to back up the same exact way he came. And Kathy, if you just want to show what he cut.
Yeah.
That was his first pass. And again, this is all zoysia. So he's going to reach the end here. He's going to hang the front deck off a little bit so that he gets the edge. And now he's going to drive backwards on that same exact path. And again, this is where precision navigation really plays a really important role. And again, we don't actually want to drive in and back out the same way all the time. We want to optimize this algorithm specifically for sidewalks so that instead of coming in this way next time, he'll start on the opposite side. Hey, buddy. He'll start on the opposite side next time, so that way you're not going over the same exact area of lawn every time. It's very, very important that you don't approach an area and go over it the same way every single time, the same exact way. So, but again, something that's unique to Yarbo, so you don't have to, maintain the apron. What they did here at this property previously was they had another brand with a perimeter wire fence that they would install, and they basically had it doing this, but they had issues with the unit constantly falling off the edge here because of the slope and getting traction on zoysia, even with what the other type of lawnmower called like all-terrain tires. But they would always manually do the apron because it just is extremely difficult for robotic lawnmowers to handle aprons, specifically again like this, that's tied into zoysia grass. So Yarbo's now finished it, and he's going to take his path backwards basically and go back to where he came from. Now when we optimize this algorithm, he won't have to do that. He could basically get to the end of the apron and then jump right back onto the lawn, and either go right back to the docking station or onto the next apron, because there's another apron over there that he would really have to cut. And then again, when we have the trimmer, you can try and ride the edge half here on this side and half on the other side, if you want. But when we have the trimmer and the edger, you won't have to do this. He can ride basically in the middle and then do a dedicated edge cut and a dedicated trim. So so we just wanted to showcase that apron, because as you can see here, if you just pan around, and you guys I'm sure are familiar with sidewalks, if you have them, sidewalk aprons, they are all over neighborhoods, and they definitely pose a challenge. Hey guys, alright, so now we wanted to show a different way to approach an apron. This apron is a little bit wider, and instead of the previous apron, if you remember, we drove down the middle. On this one, we're going to try and approach it basically how we did with the edge. And Yarbo's basically going to come down here, so it's going to have to go down this drop, up this side, and then it's going to ride the apron on the right side, half on, half off, and then at the end, it's going to turn around and it's going to come back the other way and ride the other half. And this is all really in an effort just to cut down on trimming and edging until our dedicated trimmer and edger module come out in spring of 2025. But we just wanted to show you some kind of creative ways that you can do with the mapping to tackle some of these areas, and both cut the apron but also cut down on an edging and trimming. Guys, so here you can see Yarbo is riding one side of the apron, and one of the reasons it can do this is because of the treads. So if we had a typical lawnmower, robotic lawnmower that had wheels or omnidirectional wheels, doesn't matter, the wheels are very thin, so you would risk running off the curb very, very easily with any kind of deviation. But because we have thick treads, we can actually ride right along the apron and straddle both the curb and the apron. So now we're able to get the entire apron. And again, this is a workaround until we have our edger and trimmer. And you can see some tall weeds here. It's taken care of. This apron hasn't been done in a little while. But that's something that we're pretty proud of as a workaround. Just because, again, that means you don't have to trim. You'll eventually have to edge this, right? But it cuts down on trimming and really maintaining the apron altogether.
And now we'll go back and do the same. I think grab the shot of that weed that it didn't get the first time, and this weed that it didn't get the first time. Never mind. Got the second one. Oh, no, okay. That's fine.
All right, guys, so just to recap, we went over a couple of demos here. We basically told you the overview of Yarbo being modular. We focused on the M1 in particular and how it handles a thick grass like zoysia. Again, that's challenging because it's thick, so it's difficult to cut. It's difficult to get traction on. We showed you how it handles the incline. We showed you obstacle avoidance, cut quality. We showed you how it handles the edge, right? So we basically rode half on, half off. We showed you how it handles lawn aprons. So that lawn apron, we went down the middle. This one, we rode half one side, half the other. And now we want to get into answering some of your questions you guys have, and as well as the lottery, where we're going to do some cool giveaways. So let's go.
Hello guys, can you hear us?
Hey guys, yeah, please just let us know how the audio is.
Alright. Guys, can you hear us? Let us know that if you guys can hear us, and then we can start the QA. Great, thanks.
All right, try it.
Cool. So, thanks you guys watching our previous video. And then because like due to the weather, and then we have like something issue before, so we have to decide to pre-record, and then so we don't want to waste like everyone's time at this time, so we changed like different ways to show our demos, especially our like key features that we want to show you guys in the live. And then right now, so it's our QA section. So Ken, are you ready for the QA?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, cool. So we got a lot of questions from our audience. So the first one is that like it looks like you'll have like some brush and then that hand over, and then will the Yarbo be able to move under the branches even if they like brush up against the units?
Yeah, so, yeah, good question. Yeah, so some of the bushes, right, hang over a bit in Yarbo's path. And yes, it will be able to do that. Actually, one of the limitations to vision is that we actually can't see what's hanging down. So things like slides on swing sets, we recommend no-go zoning, right? So you can absolutely go under the bushes. The particular model that we were running had taller antennas, which is why we didn't get that close to the bushes, but the 2024 has height adjust, right, has shorter antennas. So you can absolutely get under there, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and then later maybe we can take some video and show some video like how units under those bushes.
Yeah, absolutely, because there's a lot of use cases like that, for sure.
And then the next question is like, so will Yarbo continue to mow if the slope exceeds the design space? And then can you manually mow if it wants like auto mow past the design slope space?
Yeah, the design slope. Yeah, the spec. Okay, so yeah, no worries. So yes and no. So we do not put a hard limit like when our IMU detects an angle that's say steeper than what Yarbo is technically capable of doing, because it depends on a lot of factors, right? The type of grass, is the terrain bumpy or not? So if you're trying to approach a slope that's steeper than what Yarbo is technically able to do by our specs, Yarbo may still do it. Here's a situation where a spec might stop that. If the motor goes into overcurrent because that slope is so steep that it just puts too much current on our motor, or basically overloads our motor, we're going to stop then at that point and let you know, hey, you're going up too steep of a slope and the motor can't handle it. But if you're going up a steep slope and say that exceeds Yarbo specs, we don't have a hard stop there. So basically I would tell you try it out. If it's marginal, a little bit higher than what we spec for, I could probably do it. It's just like when we say we have a 3,500 pound tow rating, and we've towed 6,000 pounds. We don't want to do it all the time, but there's nothing stopping Yarbo from doing it. We don't put any like strict standards in there to kind of handicap it, other than protection of the motor and the electronics.
Awesome, awesome. Thanks for under that. So the next question is, does Yarbo not complete the current path during an obstacle avoidance? It looks like it went to the next path.
So Yarbo will, so that was probably because I was moving. Yarbo will absolutely, and we're constantly tweaking this, but the way it works right now is when Yarbo sees me or any kind of obstacle, it'll basically make a judgment and then start to turn around me. And sometimes it'll stop a second time and get another angle of me and then go around me a little bit more. What we're working on is after it goes around me, to make that area extremely small, so to keep the margin extremely small. And we're actually going to have settings where you can control how far around an obstacle Yarbo goes based on your comfort level. So for like me, I like Yarbo to go as close to things as possible because I trust it and I don't want to do a lot of trimming and cutting afterwards, right? But it will follow the same path that it was already on, right? Or the same pass, for sure.
And then also we also can adjust that how sensitive that the units can detect obstacle. So maybe it's just more sensitive, so it's just not touching it or leave more space. If it's not sensitive, it would just really get close to the obstacle.
Yeah, there's another question coming up that we can kind of go more into depth on obstacle detection because it's a really, really important part of operating on the lawn. There's many different lawn shapes and sizes, layouts, different obstacles, and we'll get into that in a minute. But there's a lot of customization there.
Okay, so next question is, would it be advisable for us to invest in Wi-Fi Halo for our yard if we have lots of
acreage? Yeah, if you have a lot of acreage. So if you have a big property, would it be wise to invest in Wi-Fi Halo? So Yarbo does come with Wi-Fi Halo, right, in our data center that gives you that coverage across your yard, but specifically for Yarbo. And the reason for that is Wi-Fi Halo typically tops out at about 15 megabits per second, right? So that's good. That's basically when we're streaming for cameras, that's at the high point of its use case, right? That you're topping out the bandwidth of Halo's capabilities at that point. You could get a Wi-Fi Halo extender, right? Separately in your yard, third party, not from us, right? And that would blanket your yard for other devices, right? As long as they're Wi-Fi Halo compatible. But it wouldn't piggyback off our data center. Our data center is specifically for Yarbo, but again, it comes with Yarbo, so you can go up to 6.2 acres, and more than that if you needed to, if you were okay with Yarbo cutting the lawn less, right? You could exceed that acreage technically. So.
Awesome. So next question is, do we have dealer in Norway? So I can say that we are welcome to everyone who is interested to become our dealers. And then if you're interested, please contact our dealer at yarbo.com. So we will reach out to you. And then the next question is that how your team, so can Yarbo recognize small animals like a hedgehog? In Germany, we don't let our robots working at night because there's a risk in injury of hedgehogs.
Sure. Yeah. That's a great point. So the short answer is yes, it can detect hedgehogs. It can detect things as small as leaves. And working at night, we did a ton of work on getting the headlights dialed in. So you'll notice that a lot of robotic lawnmowers do not have headlights, and it's because it's very difficult to get headlights that are not too bright, not too dim, and that they're balanced with the cameras, right? So that way we don't blow out the scene essentially and it's too bright and we can't see it, or it's too dim. So that's really, really important. So we did a ton of work there. And then on the obstacle avoidance side, we give you a lot of granular control over that. So there's a wizard when you open the app that'll basically ask you, okay, what type of obstacles are in your lawn? And they'll give you some pictures for reference, and you can pick them, and it'll pick the best obstacle avoidance for that particular area, right? Or you can override those settings. So in this case, you might say, well, at night, I want the maximum obstacle avoidance, right? So I want to detect everything down to a leaf, anything that is not the lawn, and I want to go around it. And in that case, you could protect the hedgehogs.
Yeah, so like really depends. And then so because we already answered those couple questions, so it's like fun time that please just like write down like keywords love Yarbo, love YB, something like that, and then we will just have a screenshot, and then we will pick like one audience from our YouTube channel and then one audience from our Facebook channel to win the big prize. So the prize that we have is like 20 t-shirts, and three people will get like three chance to get like a $400 discount, and then two give away more, and then one give away four. So let's see who's our lucky guy. So let's pick one guy first. So from the YouTube, so let me count 3, 2, 1. Okay, so when it counts to 1, I will take the screenshot, and then the first one appear on our screenshot will be have the chance to get a lottery. So ready, guys? All right. So maybe let's do like 10 seconds countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 3, 2, 1. So let me see. So from the Facebook, the first one is Jennifer. So
cool.
lucky.
Congratulations,
Jennifer. All right, Ken.
All right.
You will help Jennifer to get this.
All right, you got it.
All right. Facebook. All right, Ken. Ready?
Ready, I think.
Ken, don't look at it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Jennifer, are you nervous?
I'm nervous for Jennifer.
What's it get?
Okay, we got.
Oh wait.
We got a Doug. We got a blank one.
Sorry.
Hold on.
Let me try that one more time.
All right. Get the blank one. Oh, we got a T-shirt.
One T-shirt.
All right.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Ken.
You're welcome.
We have one more time for the YouTube channel. So Ken, are you ready?
I am.
So I just count like 3 at this time. So 3, 2, 1. What is it? Who is it?
Hang on.
Who's the lucky guy?
Let's see. Michael Morgan.
Michael Morgan.
Oh my god.
All right, you pick this
Okay,
one.
okay,
You pick
yes.
this
All
one.
right.
No pressure.
Hope I can get
you the big prize. T-shirt.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Thank
All right, Michael Morgan.
All right.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Okay, let's continue the QA section. I think we got a lot of questions going on. So, okay, next question. Let's go back here. So, data center and RTK question. So, like, I know the core has a Wi-Fi hello, so I should probably include this, but like, can you explain like what's data center and then what like RTK for? Like, how to use it?
Yeah, sure. So the data center is our branded name, right? For basically what others refer to as a reference station or a base station, and basically that has all the brains in it to get Yarbo basically a stationary pinpoint accuracy GPS location that then Yarbo, the core that's moving around basically on the earth, can then say where it is, and it can do some math then to figure out exactly where it is based on its reference point or based on what the GPS location is reported in the data center. And the data center also has Wi-Fi halo in it, so that's what's actually broadcasting that signal out across your yard to cover, again, a theoretical 32 acres, but if you have a ton of trees and things like that, and even if you cut that in half to 15 acres, it's well beyond Yarbo's capability as far as range. But that's what gives Yarbo all of its connectivity and as well as positioning. The other important point to the 2024 data center is that it actually has an offline mode also. So if you do lose internet, you can still Yarbo can still work.
Yes,
which is a big deal.
Yeah, correct. So it definitely can help a lot of like property or a house owner that like they don't have like Wi-Fi or something.
Right, correct. Correct.
Okay, the next question. So, like, how are the updates going? Does it download them autonomously, or do you have to connect it to the PC?
Yeah, good question. So everything is done through the app.
Yeah.
So you can basically when you get a prompt that there's an update for a firmware update, then you can choose whether or not to install it or not. So right now we actually just install the update, but in the future we actually want to make it optional.
People just want to keep the original one.
Right, and some people also maybe they want to wait a couple days till a firmware update gets out in the community and they're more comfortable with it. So I have a Tesla, some people do that. I don't. I like the latest, and if it has a problem, I'm taking that risk. But
it really depends.
Yeah,
We
you can make
open
that
the
choice.
options to you guys.
Yep.
And then the question is about the 10 chunks, check. So will the 10 checks knock down the grass?
Sure, good question. So the 10 tracks will not mat down the grass any more than any other real lawnmower. The key is that every time Yarbo goes out, it's changing the angle at which it makes its route, right, or its map. So that way, whenever we go out, if we go out, say, this way one way, right, left to right, the next time we're going to go right to left, right, and we're going to keep shifting that angle so that we are picking up the grass as we drive the front of Yarbo over it, and then we lay it back down, right, with the tracks. But a good example of this is people that have like stripers, right, on the back of their lawnmower, and they're basically either a broom, a rubber mat, or rollers if it's like a professional striper, and that intentionally mats or lays down the lawn, right? And for them, they also alternate all the time when they go out so that they don't damage the lawn over time. That's kind of a rule of thumb in anything. Pathways, as we showed with the sidewalk, we want to continuously alter how we approach these paths so that we're not driving over the same place the same exact way every time.
So we want to protect the lawn, not like destroy it.
Correct.
Yeah. And then I got the comment here. So thank you for the demo. Thanks. So just excited and waiting for mine to come. So are you still looking at October? If it's that late, I hope the blower comes with it at the same time.
Yeah, correct. So everything is actually slated for October still. We're still on schedule for that. And that is the snow blower, the leaf blower, the lawnmower.
Cool. Awesome. So when there's an obstacle detected, does it make that spot on the map or anything to let me know that there's something in the yard? So, that's a good question.
Yeah. So the team did a ton of work on this. Basically, when we detect obstacles, we will report them to you after the run, right? So after the map is complete. And then you can pick whether or not you want to keep an obstacle or you want to get rid of it, right? We could go further in the future to maybe make something a temporary obstacle or only between schedules, but right now there's a map at the end and you can select whether or not, hey, that was, my kid's toy I left on the lawn, don't avoid it next time, or those are actually trees, I just ran the map for the first time and it detected 10 trees, right, save it forever. I don't want to have to go back and mark those.
True.
Good question.
Nice. So if my lawn and apron don't have the height variations like in the demo video, could I map that two areas as one and simply move across the sidewalk?
Yeah, you absolutely can. You absolutely can. The only thing you want to be careful of is if you do that, because the area that you're turning on the lawn apron is such a narrow area, if you are constantly turning on that narrow area, right, that could be an issue, right? So, but here's the thing, I mean, if you can try it, and if you notice that the lawn, if you're doing 3-point turns, it's probably not a concern, right? We were doing 0 turns because the type of lawn Zoysia can take it, right? But that's the only thing to look out for if you do that type of pattern, right? Or in the angles that Yarbo goes out at, you can exclude certain angles. So you don't want to, constantly turn perpendicular on a really small patch of grass. So that's the only thing you want to watch out for. But yes, you can do that, and we don't limit you. Right. Area-wise, you can call anything you want an area. You can have your driveway and the 2 sections of lawn on each side of your driveway an area. We probably wouldn't recommend that, but you can do it. You can completely customize it your way.
Good questions. Okay. So next, can you program it Yarbo so it doesn't pass through the mole area, and then so it checks the perimeter and doesn't cross over the strips when it's recharging or moving areas?
Yeah, great question. So yes, so right now it does go over the area, right, that it just did, and we're gonna have a couple of different options, right? One of them is just take the shortest path back to the docking station.
Yeah.
And if it does that, yeah, and if it does that right now, it does it in the same exact way. So what we're working on is actually that you can give it like a corridor width for that path back to the docking station. So that way Yarbo can kind of move in an S pattern each time a little bit differently so that it doesn't mat down the lawn. Because that's actually, even with light robotic lawnmowers, if they're GPS driven, they usually take the exact same path around the boundary. They usually take the exact same path back to the docking station if it's the shortest path. But we're doing a lot of work there to make sure that Yarbo is never taking the exact path. It's always going to vary it a little bit. But yeah, in that case, you would want to do the boundary, but maybe we would alternate the side of the boundary each time. And then again, we want to move it a little bit of an S pattern so we don't create ruts in the lawn.
Awesome. All right, cool. Next is that like I have a really 3-slat fence. It's a really?
Oh, I have a vinyl 3-slat fence.
Okay. And then how will we approach having Yarbo move around a fence like that?
Sure, a vinyl 3-slat fence. I mean, if you're just talking a small section of fence that Yarbo has to get around, Yarbo can get right next to the fence. So a lot of lawnmowers, autonomous lawnmowers, leave a pretty decent margin, right? Yarbo can get right up to the fence. I didn't know if this was a question about maybe that fence dividing the front and backyard, but it says it's only a 3-slat fence, so I don't think that's it. Yeah. But while we're here, if we didn't answer your question, just reword it a different way, and we'll catch back up with it in a little bit.
Yeah, or you can just like send us like email to us, and then we can just respond to you directly later on.
For sure.
Or for example, if you're once, you can just send me a picture, and then we can look at it.
Yeah.
And, it's that way. So here's my question. So is the navigation and steering at the current stage of development first enough? So more complex due to the length of the Yarbo body, which is pushing the mower. So that Yarbo is able to perform like presses, edging, and trimming.
Sure. Is the navigation and steering of the current? Sorry, just want to reread this.
Yeah.
Precise. More complex ones. Okay, so yeah, so basically, do we have precision enough to do edging and trimming? Well, I wouldn't really call it necessarily edging because an edger is vertical, right? And we don't have the edger right now. That'll come out in the spring of 2025. As far as trimming to cut down on that, we can get right up to the edge. And one of the reasons or how we approach that is we do it very slow. So just like you saw in that demo, Yarbo cutting the apron, you need like centimeter, 2 centimeter level max precision to be able to pull off stuff like that. So, and when we don't have GPS, we rely on our cameras and our IMU and other sensors to be able to position ourselves. So, yes, it absolutely is precise enough to do that, but I just want to emphasize trimming because edging is really something completely different, which we will get to. But yeah, right now it can absolutely, get very close to the edge to cut down on trimming.
Okay. So the next question is all about like Halo because a lot of people like interested about it and curious about it. So for Halo, so with the Wi-Fi Halo, can I store Yarbo like under a patio instead of being underneath of the roof? And then the Laura has a poor signal if it was like 2 to 3 feet under the roof area. So can we explain this and I think some suggestions?
Yeah, sure. So I'm guessing maybe they had the 2023 version.
I think so. Probably.
Okay, right. So we had 2 separate antennas, right? A LoRa antenna and a GPS antenna. So now that they are in one, you really don't want anything under a patio, right? And the LoRa had poor signal if it was 2 to 3 feet under a roof area. I don't know if you mean like you placed it in the attic, but LoRa does not penetrate walls or anything like that well at all. Where Wi-Fi Halo, one of the big benefits is it does.
Yeah.
So, so the best placement is as high as you can get it. You know, we do have a ground pole, right? That maybe puts Yarbo, the pole, the data center 5 feet in the air. It's not ideal, but it does work. We've used it at many properties before, but the rule of thumb is the higher you can get that setup, the better, for sure.
Yeah, so our team is still suggesting that if it's possible, get it like high as possible, like the rooftop, like that's the best.
Yeah, and just never try and get it under, like they said, under a patio.
Yeah.
But if you put it under a patio, that could also degrade the signal if it has to go through the entire house to the other side. Your Halo's still going to do it, but if you're trying to get, 6 acres to the opposite, to go through the entire home, right, to the opposite side, it's always better to place it higher.
Yeah. Okay. The next part I thought out. So the people just like, because I think this audience already see our like couple lives before, also in the team channel. So like, how come the Halo data center in today's video looks so different than the promotes from events a few days ago? And then can we explain that like only one like antenna handing over? Like,
yeah, sure. So right now we're using actually our like what we call our dev kit, right? So we have, and because we actually go around from property to property, we split the two. So we have one pole that we actually typically don't even have on the pole you're looking at now. We actually have it on like a telescopic flagpole. I think you guys know what I mean.
Yeah.
So it compacts down to about 6 feet. We could run it up to about 25 feet, get our GPS antenna up high so that if we're at an Airbnb or another location, we're not allowed to put it on the roof. Maybe it's surrounded by a bunch of trees, we can still get it up high. And our Wi-Fi Halo actually works separately as a different transmitter, and we just do that because of the properties and the permission of what we're allowed to do on the properties right now. So it's a good point, but everything will look like what you see on the website as far as the actual data center, packaged into one unit.
Yeah. And then as you know that like we rent different Airbnb for testing, so you can see like that's different. Yep. And then what's the range on the Halo? And then for example, for 4 acres, I plan to put it on the peak of my roof. Will be good?
That is perfect. Well, as far as also 4 acres, that's not a problem at all. Again, theoretical, if you're line of sight and you put it on your roof, you're 32 acres theoretical, right? But theoretical is never how it works. So cut that number in half to play it safe, and you're at 15 acres. 4 acres, not a problem. And again, Yarbo's recommended, or max, I should say, maintenance to cut the lawn 2 times a week is 6.1 or 6.2 acres. So Halo can well exceed that range.
Yeah. So other question is that like I have a fence, and then do I have a way to automate like a gate opening, or I have like Yarbo stop at the gate and then notify me to open it?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Actually, like we went to a lot of our beta tester before. They also have this question.
Yeah, in the U.S. market, it's very popular to have a fence. I do too. So in the short term, yes, we don't have it now, but it's exact suggestions like this that we're always looking for to just say, hey, a simple solution, stop, prompt me, I need you to open the gate. Because all we're going to do in the program is say at this waypoint, stop, and prompt the user that they need to notify the gate, and then hit continue, right? In the long run, we do want to make an opening gate for Yarbo in the fence, so that it's specific to Yarbo and that it can open up, on its own and let Yarbo back and forth, because we know that is a big, pain point for people in general. So.
And it just reminded me that like your house, the recce, they always do.
Oh yeah.
So in the future, we can have similar. Something.
Yes. So I have 2 dogs, and one of them is an escape artist, and he just loves to go on adventures, and so a locking gate is extremely important to us. I mean, in the interim, if you don't have a pool and you don't have dogs or small children, you could always, cut a small flap, right, and make what we call a no vision zone, but an area where basically Yarbo ignores, right, any obstacles in that area for reasons just like this. And then in that case, Yarbo will just push through that gate or that flap let itself through, and the flap will then close back down. So, but it's a great point, and it is on our roadmap as an accessory, but we're not there yet. So your point to address this through software, yeah, we will absolutely look into for sure.
Okay, so we might be go like 2 more questions, and then we will go to the next part of the battery.
Sure.
Okay.
Cool. Okay. So any thoughts on the way to leaf grass, and then a weeds period to cutting, and then like using a rack of some sort or a blower on the unit of section?
Yeah, for suction. Yeah, so that's a good question. So one thing that you might not have been able to see in this particular video, but is all around Yarbo, is a steel skirt. And in the front, that steel skirt has slats, so it's like combed. And the reason for that is to lift up the grass and not mat it down before it gets cut, right? So that's how we approach it now. So that's very similar to what you're asking as far as like having a rake. That's pretty much what it's doing. Having some sort of blower, or I've actually seen some Kickstarters where they put like little fins on the discs that have the blades to try and create lift. But the fact of the matter is, you need extremely powerful motors to actually make that effective. The best bet is to have that comb-like structure, which we have, and then run over it that way.
Awesome. So next question. So is there still a 2-track method?
Okay, so the 2023 version, we had 1 track, and we had then in like you're seeing here, we would insert like rubber tracks, right? Rubber inserts to smooth out the track for the lawn. In the future, so for the 2024 version, the one that's selling on the website now, you actually have those hot swappable tracks, and so we'll have a dedicated lawn track and a dedicated snow track, and then we are planning, and it really depends on customer feedback, if you want to see other track types, to purchase as an accessory after the fact. So maybe like an off-road track or a mud track or something like that. But yeah, the hot swapping tracks are a huge deal, for sure.
Okay, so we promised that we have another one. So we still take a screenshot and then go back from there to here.
Sure.
So do you want to do the YouTube first?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, so still please type love Yarbo or love YB. So I'm going to count 5. So we will take the screenshot, the first one on our screen, who will get a chance to win the lottery. Okay, are you guys ready? From this month's YouTube channel first. So alright, I'm going to count down.
Yeah, there's a little delay, so let's just keep that in mind.
Alright.
Yeah, wait for a second.
Okay.
Yep, we're just going to hang on a couple seconds.
There's no empty.
Yeah, take it out of blanks.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, guys.
I think so.
I think.
Alright, we're starting.
Ready, start?
Okay, ready, start? Alright, I'm going to count like 5. Alright, ready?
Alright.
Alright.
5,
5,
4,
4,
3,
3,
2,
2,
1.
1. Stop.
Okay. Let's see. Screenshot. Brian Wheeler.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Brian. Alright.
Here we go.
Because it's only kind of flat, so you can play kind of mess up.
Okay. Alright. Here we go, Brian.
What is it?
Got one.
Whoa.
Ooh, a $100 coupon.
Coupon.
Oh my god,
Congratulations.
Yeah, congrats.
Congrats.
Nice.
Alright, Brian.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Please send me an email at Kathy, kathy@yarbo.com. So just contact me, and then later we will send you the coupon code
Yeah,
for you,
cool.
especially for the phone.
Yep.
Very good.
Yeah. All right. So the next channel is Facebook. Okay, let me see.
Alright,
Facebook friends, are you guys ready?
Alright,
I'm going to count down to 5. Alright. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, stop. see. Step.
Yeah, Steven Roberts.
Steven Roberts.
Awesome.
Awesome.
All right.
All right.
Alright, took a second for our screenshot to pop up.
Yep.
Alright.
Right. Hope I can give them up.
T-shirt.
T-shirt.
Alright.
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys. Congrats.
Congratulations, Steven.
Congrats.
Cool.
All right.
That's a lot of fun.
That's a lot of fun.
Cool. Yeah, no, I like that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Let's go back to the question because we have few questions, and then after that, I think just like we might be just end because it's still like Friday, and then if you guys have more questions, just leave us comments, and then we'll respond to that. All right. So next question is: are you have like make your after you make your map? Can you move a marker in the map if it's a couple of like centimeters off?
Yes. Yes. So we're working on actually two things right now. One of them is when you make your map, if you make a mistake, you can basically hit a rewind button and you will see Yarbo basically drive in reverse. So let's say I'm driving and I drive off the edge, right, accidentally. If I hit the rewind button, Yarbo will start to back up, right? And it'll back up until a point where I say, okay, you know what, that's a good spot. I was in the right direction there, and then you just start it. And then the other thing that we're working on right now is the ability to, edit the boundary after the fact, absolutely. So by the time everyone gets their Yarbos, they will absolutely be able to edit boundaries, all that type of stuff. Yeah, so you don't have to redo things.
Yep.
So
Next question is there going to be a prolonged battery life mode, so where it won't charge beyond like 85% and then won't drop below 20%?
Yeah, that's actually a great point. We have that already. We learned that about the snowblower. So from the snowblower, basically our numbers are rated on 20% to 80%. So when Yarbo goes out, it'll run down to 20%. You can actually bring that down if you want. You can change that preference down to 15%, but we won't let you go less than 15%. And then it'll go back, charge to 80%, and go back out again. One, to protect the health of the battery, and two, because it's more efficient. That last 20%, so 80 to 100%, takes forever, just like an EV car, right? If you're on a road trip, you typically won't charge past, 80%.
Something like that. So,
Yeah, it just takes forever.
Yeah. So like next question is our temperature can dip down to negative 40 Celsius or more. What is the impact on battery and how long the battery will be last?
Sure. So if it dips down to negative 40, so we say, someone has to do the math for me, we say negative 20 Fahrenheit. Alicia, can you look up that real quick? Okay, we're going to do the conversion real quick, but that might be a little bit lower than our testing. So we will check. I will say this. There is a video that you can take a look at on YouTube of a pretty well-known reviewer on a national television channel. He's in Winnipeg, Canada, and he was in temperatures way below what we're rated for. And Yarbo did just fine. So is it out of our, is this another situation where it's out of our spec and we won't operate? No. But will it hurt the battery life? What I would say is this. If you were going to go into...
This is weird. Not correct.
I don't think that's correct either. Our calculator...
I can check it out.
Yeah, we'll double check it. We just put it into a calculator, negative 40 Fahrenheit said negative 40 Celsius. Anyways, not my forte, but... if you were to get into, like, let's just say I was at Indian Lake snowmobiling and it got down to negative 60 at night. In that particular case, I would bring Yarbo in the garage, right? If it wasn't actively working in a storm. If it's actively working in a storm, it's fine.
Negative 100.
Okay. Oh, negative 104 Fahrenheit.
Yes.
So
that is super cool.
Where's the place that can
Actually, if you can comment where you
Are you sure it's like
located.
negative 40 Celsius, not negative 40? Like
Maybe our calculator's off. But either way, the rule of thumb is this: when Yarbo is operating, it's heating the battery just by the effect of it operating, right? So we're creating resistance by turning the snowblower. and when you're turning the snowblower, it's heating up the battery, right? So it's almost never a concern when Yarbo is actually operating. But when Yarbo is sitting on the charging pad, and if it's charging during that storm, it's fine. But if you are not using Yarbo and it's sitting on the charging pad, then I would definitely adhere to the specs, right? So that's really important because the heater can only keep up, just like your car can only keep up with so much, heat output. It's the same thing, right? So if you were going to keep it outside in, I'll pick a number, negative, 70 degrees Fahrenheit. For me, I wouldn't want to snow blow in that, so I would still buy a Yarbo. I would still send it out in that, but then I would put it in the garage that hopefully is somewhat heated, right? That keeps it at a relative, within our specs. Let me say that.
And then also, like people also mentioned that, like especially like what, for example, in the summer, it's pretty hot, like it's super hot. So like how the batteries can handle it.
So the battery's okay in the really warm climate. If it's super warm and you're going up really steep inclines, and we actually haven't really had this happen yet. And today it's, I don't know, it's in the 90s. It's super humid. The humidity is what really just makes it feel gross. But anyways, Yarbo's been fine, right? If Yarbo is going to overheat when it comes back to the docking station because you're just hitting like record-breaking temperatures, 120 degrees or something like that, then Yarbo might pause and say, hey, I got to cool the battery down a little bit. And that is all done by Yarbo's internal battery management system. So that's what takes care of keeping the battery healthy. And you will get messages if it's going outside of those guidelines for any reason, including if there's an error, right? And maybe there's something wrong with the battery management system. But
you'll get a pop-up alert or something like that.
Correct.
So you'll be noticed that like something happened or something.
Right, or it might say that maybe it has to wait, I don't know, an estimated 20 minutes before it has to charge again. But again, we've run it in really warm temperatures, and we haven't had overheating issues yet. So that's good. But it's also because lawn mowing takes a lot less power and current than snow blowing, right?
True.
So that's another big benefit to us, but which we were lucky with. It's not that we planned.
Cool. So next question. So if I have a 90-degree corners, how close can you to move the corners, and how easy it can do map it during the preliminary mapping process?
Sure. So 90-degree corners it can do. It's going to get, I'm going to say, about this close to the corner.
Yeah, I think so.
Because basically that's the distance between the bumper and the wheels.
Yes.
And the cutting disc, I should say. The cutting disc and the bumper. So maybe about this if you're nosing up to it. But if you're driving along that corner sideways, you can get right along the fence. So.
Or maybe I'm thinking maybe like that end this way and then that end that way. So maybe they can, like I think we can try later.
So Yarbo actually knows when it's coming up to a corner, and it will start to make like very like mini, like an 18-point turn if it needs to make sure it gets as close to that corner as it can. And we are working on other things like using our ultrasonic sensors to detect the corner and then treat it differently. Like when it does its perimeter cut, it'll come up to the corner in two different sides to get closer.
Okay. So the next question is, in your videos, you can clearly see that in the future there will be a station that can exchange modules autonomously. What about the modules that are sold today? The super docking.
Yeah, sure. So super docking is, I'm gonna say it's on our roadmap for the future, but we don't have a timeline. And the reason being is we had a working prototype. Our main goal is to get as many modules out there as we can now. Whether super docking is compatible with these modules or not, we really can't say, because we have so many modules to produce before it's even worth it to get a super docking cabinet, because you need to be able to fill it with modules, right? And so that had about 9 different modules in it, and some of them connected to the front, some of them connected to the back. So again, we did a prototype. It was a functioning prototype. It worked, but it was a prototype. So now we want to really focus on getting Yarbo stable, using this summer, right, just like we did with last winter, and really optimizing the software, really listening to our customers and using that feedback to make the software experience better and better, and make Yarbo better and better, right? And then continue to make quality modules. And when we get to a point where we feel like, okay, now it's time for the super docking, we will absolutely announce that. We can make it compatible with these modules, we will, but again, our number one goal is to get quality modules out there so Yarbo's a better value to everybody, all of our customers, and then go from there. So it's a great question, and it's something that we're all really passionate about accomplishing, but we definitely don't have a time frame yet.
Okay. So I think we can only answer one more question because the time. So the last question is how tall of the vertical cube can Yarbo navigate with a mower attached, like edge of the driveway?
It's about 2 inches, I believe. So meaning that like a vertical obstacle, right? So like the edge of the driveway where the driveway meets maybe the road. Yeah, it's about 2 inches, and there are very simple ways you could extend that. So if you were to go to Home Depot and just cut a small, piece of wood and just make a little angle, and you need to get up a 5-inch incline, Yarbo can do that. That's what our steel skirt can actually push itself up and over. On the Lawn Mower side, so that's really, really important. But if you had, a 6-inch curve you needed to get over, you could just DIY, a very small angle. Because Yarbo's module has a tension spring, it's constantly wanting to pull up, right? And our skirt is angled this way, so it constantly wants to go up. So if you just give it any kind of angle to what you're trying to go over, if it exceeds those 2 inches, Yarbo will be able to do it. So, yeah.
So we just get at the defense questions that before, I think I want to just clarify his questions so
Sure.
we can answer that.
Yeah.
So he said the fence is surrounding my yard and has about a 6-foot sections of grass on the other side that gets formed beyond. So that
Okay.
and then that perimeter will change every time the farmer plants new crops.
Yeah, new crops. Okay, so the fence surrounds my yard and has about a 6-foot section of grass on the other side that gets farmed beyond that. Okay.
So he said he would like to mow under as much as possible and the trimmer things as well. So.
Oh, I would like to mow under as much as possible to eliminate trimming. So under the fence, maybe.
Yeah. So
Okay.
three
horizontal slats. I know what you mean. I'm sorry. So right. So I'm sorry. When I picture this, I picture the wooden fence, right, with the 3 horizontal bars. You know what? That's a great question. To answer that, we would need to know how high the first horizontal slat is, right? If it's higher than or shorter than 10 is, right? But we would need to know that measurement. If you can email
more details.
Yeah, support@yarbo.com. You can even send us pictures. You can send us pictures of your yard, and we will tell you kind of the best one. In the off case that Yarbo is not right for your yard, which is pretty slim, we will tell you that. But there's also the best ways to approach mapping your yard, or can it do this, or can it do this unique edge case. We'll also tell you that. So feel free to email us for sure, and our team will take a look at it.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
All right. Cool. I think we just covered most of the questions they are interested, and then I think So thank you, Ken. And thank you the team behind the screen.
Yeah, congratulations to the winners. This was a lot of fun.
Yes. And then don't forget, those winners, don't forget to email me at Kathy, KATHY@yarbo.com.
Oh, and did we go over the promotion one more time? Right? They order before 6 o'clock.
Yeah. Say if you order today, right now, before the 6 p.m. Today, so you will get the
6 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, Eastern time. So you will get 600 discounts, and then after that, it will be just changed to the 350 discounts. So hurry up, guys! Limited orders.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
See you next time. Bye.
Bye, guys.